Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a while, but it is I, the mysterious Wolcamophone. I'm here giving a quick and dirty tutorial on how to make custom levels for Hello Brave World. At the current state of this project, yeah, this is very much subject to change, but this is just one method I will be demonstrating on how other people might be able to contribute their own ideas for levels to the game. So, in order to make your own levels for this game, we're going to need 4 elements of software to start with. We're going to need the Godot engine, which is what you're seeing right here. This is the engine that the game is being developed in, specifically version 4.3 stable, official. We're going to need Trenchbroom, specifically version 2024.1, which you can find under the releases section under the GitHub repository. You're going to need to clone the repository for Hello Brave World's game projects, which I will leave a link for in the description. And then we're going to need the add-on Funk Godot, which should already be included in the game projects for Hello Brave World. And basically what that is an add-on for the Godot engine, which allows the reading of the Trenchbroom map files so that they can be built into level geometry and be able to utilize the textures and stuff you define for them. Trenchbroom is about the one thing we're going to do the actual setting up for. You can install it and then you can have custom game set up in directories, but you're going to need to do a slightly bit more finagling. I will include in the description of this video a link to a separate YouTube video which I used to set up Trenchbroom. It might give you a somewhat better idea of what I ended up doing to set this up, but basically, if we navigate to add-ons, Funk Godot, and then navigate to Funk Godot local config.tres, these you will want to configure to your Trenchbroom games install folder, and that is the folder which contains the FGD files. Map editor game path should lead to just where you decided to install the repository. For me, it's on a separate drive under just projects folder, and then that is where I've have the main game projects folder that I've been working on myself. And then these 2 buttons up here should export those settings so that Trenchbroom should finally be compatible with Funk Godot, or at least have the entity definitions. And funkgodot fgd.tres is the actual file that organizes all of the brush entity definitions for things like the transparent fences, water, and transparent textures that do not occlude entities behind them. Anything that's not going to be basic map geometry that you collide with. I already have a few set up. The Funk Godot add-on has scripts that allow you to export new entity definitions, but with the current state of the game project, it is best to leave them as they are. So once we have Funk Godot and Trenchbroom configured, we can open up Trenchbroom, go ahead and hit New Map, and your icon might look like this, like the generic. I set it up specifically so that it's just my games project's icon scaled down to like 16 by 16 so it fits better in the map browser or game config browser here. This drop down here, Valve and Standard. Standard is standard. Valve is like slight tweaks to UV or texture mapping that allow for a few different things. I can't remember. I would go with standard just because it has potential for slightly lowered file map size. Valve, because it has like the new fields for coordinates for each individual brush on how the UV mapping for textures is going to go, it's going to generate more fields of data, so naturally that's going to be greater file size. I've not seen it to any degree with my own project where that's been a significant thing, but if you're considering making like a mega map project, yeah, this might be like one granular area to consider in terms of optimization for file size. That out of the way, just hit OK, you can create the thing. If Trenchbroom is set up correctly, you should start with the basic red grid missing texture defaults that comes with Trenchbroom. You can go over here, you can hit group, and this is the easiest way to organize the textures by the folders they reside in. Alright, so anything with like dev that's not just regular dev, anything with like dev slash, just double click that and that removes that from the map load order for the textures available. I don't think we really need them. All they are, in my opinion, yeah, as we've seen, they're just different colors for the dev textures that came with the Kinney kit. I don't use them as much, so if you want to remove some amount of bloat from the map file, you can hit browser up here, or settings, to toggle back between the directories of textures that do get loaded. By default, they're just all in there in case you want to browse them. It's your choice what materials you think your map's going to need. Some of them do have a bit of crossover, though. Keep that in mind. Like, you're still probably going to find some stone-esque textures in walls or floors. That being said, let's make just the most basic. We're gonna have the floor be this metal texture. You can go up here and you can change the scaling of the brush size. 128 is like a solid cube size for like one measurement of like one whole player, and then some probably. Like, the player could fit, I want to say like comfortably, if that's the best word to describe it, inside of 128 cube. The camera might start bumping up against the ceiling at this height, so I'd say the best height for gameplay-wise would be 256 units, so just like 2 cubes of 128 tall. For the briefest of explanations on how the transparent textures work, if you just put them down, you will find, as I said earlier, they might start occluding some things. So to make transparent textures work without blocking entities or making them disappear behind each other, we're going to draw this up. We're going to make this a random transparent texture. Do that just for aesthetic sanity, I guess. Right-click this, go down to Create Brush Entities here at the bottom. Go under Func, just click Detail, and that's the quickest way to set this up so that A, it does not have an occluder behind it, and B, this is now its like own singular entity with its own bounding box that's more likely to be culled as soon as you look away from it, whereas the rest of the level geometry tends to be grouped together more on load, and turning away from it is less likely to immediately cull it from processing. I'm going to move this back just so that by default the player's going to spawn in like the very center of the world, which is going to be at this axis here. That, and in Trenchbroom, when it gets loaded, it gets rotated clockwise by like 90 degrees. I don't know why. It's just a quirk of the add-on I found. So yeah, make sure your first map project, make sure the origin of the level is clear. So yeah, go up here, go to save the document as. We're going to go to where we've installed the repository for the game projects. We're going to go under levels. We're going to create a folder real quick. The naming convention here is IP underscore. The IP stands for internal plexus, which gives hint as a bit to the inspiration for the game, but yeah. Snake case is the best way to go. It's just the best way for files to be read. When it starts getting into territory of what matters for the file name, the current way that Hello Brave World loads levels is that it's a string argument in snake case for the matching folder name as well as the scene file name for your level. both the folder name and the scene file name need to match. Technically, the .map file that you load the level geometry from doesn't need to be the same name, and you can do this just to save like different versions of them. For some reason, Trenchbroom has like an autosave feature where it just adds like a new folder called autosave. You can delete that occasionally just because it tends to create bloat if you don't care too much about previous map geometry versions. And we're just going to call this test custom level. The file name is IP test custom level. The map file name will be the same, IP underscore test custom level. Now that we've saved our level geometry from Trenchbroom into the map file, we can create the new scene in our Godot engine. Typically, I'd make it like a node 3D for the root scene, and then I would give it the name of the IP test custom level. The next thing you're going to want to do is just come up here to add node. Just make it like a regular node. Add that in. For this one, we're just going to name it world, and then under this, we're going to add our world environments and the Func Godot map node type that comes from the Func Godot add-on. And this node class is basically what builds our level geometry for us from the .map file. At the very bottom of the scene tree, the first thing you're going to want to add is this custom class I've created called World Space Info. This is basically a node that separates what is a level for the video game from like just another scene. This node has information or functions for registering spawn points as well as checkpoints. And this node is also what gets called to save the information on what level the player is in. So say if you were in like the main menu of the game, this would not be there, and thus the game would not save any data for the level you're in, just to keep the player from clicking save game in the main menu and then loading into a funky scene, which is more utilitarian. If we come up here to Func Godot map, we got either local map file or global map file. At this point, I'm not sure what the difference between these two is. Whether you decide to load your map file into either one of these fields. I know either one you do, they should still both load. First thing you'd probably want to do though is here under map settings, it's going to be on Func Godot default. I would go up here to quick load, and then I would select Func Godot Hello Brave World map settings, because I created a separate file for this game specifically. If you don't do this and you load in your map file, textures will break, brush entities will break. Perhaps for the sake of like flow and efficiency, it could have probably been better just to change the default map settings directly, but I wanted to be fancy about it. IP test custom level, here we go. Here's the map geometry file we've made in Trenchbroom. And now that this is all done in true Func Godot Trenchbroom fashion, we go up here to this middle button, build, and boom, this is our level. You can see, yeah, even if you see here, this is what Func Godot does. It generates all the collision boxes, creates one big mesh here that maps all your textures and stuff. Honestly, what you can do with this at this point, unless you want to go nitty-gritty through all this stuff, come up here to the Func Godot map and hit this button right here, which is Group Selected Nodes. And basically what this does is it keeps you from selecting individual nodes under the Func Godot thing. This just makes it so that you select this parent node itself anytime you click on the floor or otherwise, so that the tree is not just going to cascade all over the place. So here's our level, your glorious level, IP test custom level. Again, we can go ahead now, we can go into levels, and we can save this under your directory. Now that the scene is saved, we can go up here and we can copy the level scene name. All right, so our level is in the game. It exists. How do we get to our level? Well, with the way Hello Brave World is currently set up, there's not a map selector. But for now, the first thing you do when you just start the game is you're going to load into the hub world. The most available thing so far is this sliding door .tscn scene. For efficiency's sake, I'm just going to take an existing one, door library here, and I'm going to duplicate it. We're going to move it slightly over to this corner. Rotate it so it stands out conspicuously. Since we have our level name copied already, we can go up here to the transfer to level field, and we can just paste in there. And this should now define the level we transfer into when we interact with the door. This checkbox up here with a warped door is to ensure that this entity is tagged so that it is something that transfers us into another level. Otherwise, the door entity functions as just like a prop door where like it plays an opening and closing animation. Overwrite prompt text, I would change this to something a bit more fancy than just a snake case. You can name the level whatever, really. This is what the player is going to be seeing on their HUD when they transfer to the level. We could instead say, like, travel to Skinner box. And then just for the sake of, like, organizing your level from the hub world or, like, transferring from another level you've created, keep it named door here, and then just name it to door Skinner. The name of the node in the tree for this shouldn't matter too much to anything, really. And just before we test this out real quick, the hub world is like the most elaborate and fleshed out, designed and laid out level in the game currently. Here we can see like there's the world node, but for the sake of other organization, we've also added other just base node classes here. And each one of these are just drop downs to organize our different types of nodes and things. Audio, of course, is going to be any sort of audio related node setup for like background music and ambience and such. Entities is a general term. Any like prefabs or objects with scripts attached that have a bit more interactability. Props are about a step down. They're probably just going to be like a static body node with a mesh and a collision attached. Some of these are prop lights as well, so they also have a light node attached. Then there's environment lights up here, which is just a huge list of groups of different lights throughout the level that are not attached to the props. A little idea there, keep your levels organized, keep everything in their hierarchies, and keep things so that you can come back and find them yourselves. And one last thing with this door entity, you can see here, transfer to position. I think if we highlight this again, no, it's not going to show us. But X, Y, Z coordinates, these are, of course, the 3D coordinates within your level. Say if you don't want them to spawn at the origin, you want them to spawn in this corner. What you can do is, real quick, you can pull out like any node really, but for this I've just pulled out info marker generic, which is literally just a thing in 3D space to mark. You can go down here to position. You can memorize this. There's not really a way to copy it, unfortunately. Memorize these three coordinates, 7, 0, 6. Type that into this field here. I think it was -6 if I remember. W. This fourth axis is not an axis or for 3D coordinates, but this is the degrees in rotation that the entity or that the player will end up turning to once they spawn in. That way, like, you put them at the coordinates, but they're not immediately facing north every time or facing a wall. With that being said, everything should be set up here. Let's test this real quick. We've started into the game. I'm still not sure why the camera starts in wonky positions, but yeah. We go over here to our conspicuous door. We travel to the Skinner box. We interact with it. And we have been transferred into our custom level. I should have placed like a coin back here to demonstrate how the occlusion works, but that's like another topic for another video. But yeah, this is the basic way to get levels to transfer into the game. I don't want to jump off quite yet because I don't know if the player, like the player's supposed to be set up so that like they return to the center of the world if falling past a certain distance, but it just doesn't seem to work sometimes. So yeah, this is the most basic way to get your custom levels into the game project files. In terms of getting your levels published so that other players can play your levels, there is not currently like a package system and exports or like a workshop or anything like that set up for the game. The most likely way you're going to be able to play somebody's levels is if you also have a cloned repository of Hello Brave World, and then you take your custom map folder that you've created, zip that up, and then send it to another player who also has a repository of the Hello Brave World game project set up. That might be my first field of research to start in, is that, yeah, you can export your project in Godot, and you can select which files to export, and then you can just select to export the .pack file separate from the executable. And I believe that should allow for loading multiple files into the game without them needing the entire game project. With that being said, if this tutorial gets a bit more traction or attention, I will be working on updates to not just to further refine other things you can do in the map editor in the game project itself, going more in depth into other entities, but eventually when I update the game enough itself, it should have at some point a more streamlined way of being able to share your levels with other people without requiring the game projects, so that you can just download the game off itch.io along with the whatever pack files. Like I said in the beginning, this was just a very quick and dirty tutorial, sort of proof of concept of the direction for custom levels and to share knowledge of how even I've created levels. If somebody else is looking at this a bit more privy to game projects than I as well, and you have a few criticisms as to the flow besides its current state, that would also be very helpful. I hope to see you guys later. My neighbors in my apartment complex are starting to yell at each other outside. I'm not sure what's going on. This is nice and spooky. They seem to be calming down now? I don't know. Anyways. Don't crash on me, please. I'm doing something important here, I swear. My neighbors in the apartment complex are starting to fight again, I think. Oh...